to the third day of Navratri. We're in the temple, and we're going to sing. First of all, of course, we finish, and then on to Om Namah Shivaya and a few other chants. Number 1, I think. Everybody sing. You know how to do the garba dancing. Why aren't you dancing? See the dance. Everybody listen carefully, don't miss a word. And once again, this is from the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam that I've been reading too. It's a condensed version by Ramesh Menon that's actually very beautiful. So this whole story is being asked by King Janamajaya, and we'll get that whole story, how this all happened, at another day. But right now, just take my word for it. That he's asking Veda Vyasa, who wrote the Purana, these questions. So Janamajaya said in a low, keen voice, Veda Vyasa, strange delight fills me when I hear about the Devi's deeds. I feel I want to hear them over and over again. But first tell me how I can worship the Devi and hope to have her grace. Veda Vyasa said, once the good king Saratha of Kola was betrayed by his ministers to a marauding horde. They divided his own army against him and routed. Saratha fled into the jungle. In one day, that king lost everything. He plunged blindly through the jungle, tears streaming down his face, and arrived by fate at the ashram of the Rishi Sumedha. That hermitage was built on the banks of a turquoise blue river, and it was like a bit of heaven fallen into the world. Exotic fruits and flowers grew everywhere, and there were little log huts that served as shelters for the Munis and his disciples. Wild creatures came there. Deer and tiger lay side by side with no enmity between them. It was as if the lust of the hunt dare not enter the Rishi's ashram. The air was full of song. Under the trees sat the Muni, with all his disciples around him chanting of the Vedas, and was like a sacrament upon the air. Saratha the king stood for a moment at the edge of the glade, and immediately fear and grief left his mind, as the deep peace of the ashram swept over the vanquished king's spirit. He tethered his horse to a tree and walked into that hermitage like a man walking into a beautiful dream. He felt he would like to spend the rest of his ruined life there. So the Muni Saratha saw the Rishi Sumedha sitting under the large tree that stood at the very heart of the glade. The Muni's body was attenuated by his long tapasya, and his slender form was perfectly quiescent, swathed in light. He was gently expounding the Vedas to his disciples, who hung on his every word. Just to see that holy man filled Saratha with a joy past his understanding. Tears filled the king's eyes, and without a word he went and fell at the Muni's feet. Sumedha saw that this visitor was no ordinary man. He offered the king a seat of dharma grass to sit on. The Rishi said, "Who are you, friend? Why do you weep? Is there anything we can do for you?" "I am Saratha, and I was king of Kola, but I was vanquished in battle, and I have lost my kingdom, my wealth, my army, my queen, and my children. I come seeking sanctuary. I will do whatever you say, for there is no one in this world that can help me but you. I fear my enemies are out hunting me. Save me, Muni, or I am lost." The Rishi gazed into the king's eyes for a moment, and the Muni had the eerie feeling, and Saratha had the eerie feeling that the sage was gazing into his very destiny. Then Sumedha said, "Stay here in my ashram, O king. By the power of my tapasya, your enemies will never find this place. But as long as you are here, you may not kill any living creature. You will have to live on wild rice, fruit, and roots, as the rest of us do. The king agreed readily and began living in relative peace in the ashram. One day he went into the forest for a walk by himself in the jungle and sat under a shady mango tree. The king thought, "The robbers have my kingdom, and they are savage men. I am sure they have persecuted my people, and I am sure my poor elephants and horses don't get properly fed. My servants must either be in prison or begging on the streets, and as for my queen, I dare not think of what they are subject to." As Saratha sat ruminating sadly under the tree, he saw a man approaching who seemed to have been crying and looked somber. Saratha beckoned to the stranger, who seemed to be in trouble, and asked him to sit at his side under the mango tree. When the man sat with a deep sigh, the king asked him, "Who are you, friend? Why are you so distressed?" The wise say that two men who exchange 7 words with each other become friends. Speak to me. Tell me why you are so sad. The man thought Saratha was a Muni or something and said to him, "I am a businessman and my name is Samadhi. I'm a devout man, but my wife and my sons are not like me. They have always been greedy for money. Why, friends, they took everything I owned and threw me out of the house, saying I am a miser." His eyes filled with tears again. Then, controlling himself, the businessman said, "But tell me, who are you, stranger? From your face, you seem to be a noble and fortunate man." He said, "I am Sarathan, king of Kola. My own ministers betrayed me, and I was driven from my kingdom. Well met, businessman. We are both in distress, and we will make good friends. Let us spend our time together here in the heart of the forest. Let us forget our troubles and find our serenity." But the businessman cried, "Ah, how can I be serene, my friend, O king? I yearn for my wife and my sons, to be with them in our home despite what they have done to me." The king was amazed. "How can you yearn for them when they have betrayed you? Even enemies are better than relatives who torment a man. Calm yourself, my friend. See where the truth lies and remain here in the forest in peace." But the businessman sighed, "Ah, my friend, I miss my wife and son sorely, and I cannot help myself. Perhaps they even miss me and regret what they have done. How shall I find peace when my mind is as restless as the wind?" The king confessed, "To tell you the truth, I too am in poor peace. I worry constantly about my kingdom and the havoc that these robbers must be wreaking on it. Ah, what shall we do, friend?" The king said, "There is an enlightened rishi's ashram nearby. It is there that I live now. Come, friend Samadhi, let us go to that wise one and ask him for a cure for our grief." The businessman agreed, and the two friends went to meet the Muni. They found the Holy One in meditation under a tree, where he was perfectly tranquil, his face bright and a smile full of kindness on his lips. They prostrated before him, and then the king said, "My lord, this is Samadhi, a businessman. We met in the forest. He and I are both tormented by misfortune. O Muni, for just as I have lost my kingdom, he has lost his home." The Muni said, "I thought you were at peace in my ashram, Saratha." "I have surely found some peace, my lord, but my mind turns back repeatedly to the dark thoughts of my kingdom. I think of my people's suffering and what indignities my queen and my children have to endure.
I think of my servants and how they must be persecuted by the invaders. Ah, Rishi, I know this world is Maya, a dream. Yet I have not found the detachment that lifts a man above joy and sorrow and makes him calm. All night I dream of my horses and elephants and how lean and starved they must be without their proper feed. What must they think except that I have abandoned them? I know that they are just beasts and no kin of mine, but all night I see their sad eyes full of tears, and I hear them cry piteously in the dark. And just like my friend Samadhi, my mind will not be still. Great Master, nothing is hidden from you. Tell us how we can find some happiness again. The Rishi smiled. He said gently, the Mula Prakriti, the Divine Mother, the Devi Maya, is the one who binds and frees all creatures in this universe. She is the cause of causes. If you worship her, she will bring joy to your spirits. Samadhi asked, how do we worship the Divine Mother, O Muni? He said, Om Hrim Klim Chamundaya Viche is her mantra. And the Navratri is her special time. During the bright fortnight of Chaitra and especially Ashvina, the Bhakti must observe a fast, keep the Navratri vows. The most auspicious days are the 8th, 9th, and the 4th days of the waxy moon. Regardless of who he is, the person who worships the Devi during the Navratri has his every desire granted. During the Navratri, young girls should be worshipped as the embodiment of the Divine Mother herself, with sandal and ornaments and scented oil and garlands of flowers. The poor and the Brahmins are fed, and the Bhaktas fast for 9 days and eats his first meal on the 10th. The devotee who keeps the Navratri vow acquires unswavering bhakti for the Divine Mother, and his every wish is fulfilled. The king smiled and his face shone with kindness. He said to Saratha and the businessman, the way out of your misery, my friends, is to worship the Divine Mother. Keep the Navratri vows and all your troubles will end. The suffering in a man's life is only the Divine Mother subtly calling you. She calls you both. Worship her, and she will save you from your distress and bless you someday with liberation. The king and the businessman were deeply comforted to hear the Muni's words. They felt hope spring up again in their desolate spirits. They prostrated themselves once more before the sage. When the sage blessed them, the businessman Samadhi said, Holy One, we have surely been led to your feet by our punya of past lives, our merits of past lives. Your wisdom makes us pure, Muni. Your peace calms our mind. We will worship the Devi Bhagavati with fervent tapasya. We beg you, please be our guru. And the Muni said he would. So the two of them bowed to him and took his leave. And they went to the bank of the river that flowed nearby and began their worship. They spent a month in Padasana, and they, with their eyes shut, chanting the Bij mantra and reading the 3 legends of the Divine Mother. Bhakti took root in their hearts and they grew swiftly. The king and the businessman did nothing else but worship the goddess. But once a day they would come before the Muni and prostrate themselves at his feet for his blessings. The Bhaktas ate only fruit. A year went by, and they grew stronger by their tapasya. Then they ate only leaves of certain trees. Another year passed, and both the king and the businessman dreamt of the Divine Mother on the same night. They saw her wearing scarlet robes and unearthly ornaments. During the third year, they were true Tapassians and subsisted only on water. But when 3 years passed and the Divine Mother had still not appeared before them, they grew desperate. The two bhaktis said to each other, if we cannot have a vision of the Divine Mother after 3 years of dhyan, we may as well not live anymore. Both agreed, and they dug a triangular pit and lit a fire in it. They meant to make a final sacrifice to the Devi of their lives. When the fire blazed up, suddenly the fire in the pit of sacrifice burned very bright as the sun, and the Tapassians were blinded by white flame, like massive columns of light. From those flames, the Divine Mother stood forth before her devotees. In her voice, deep as the sky, she said, you are my favorite bhaktas. Ask me for anything, and it shall be yours. Saratha's hair stood up on end with rapture, and he said, Devi, let me vanquish my enemies and have my kingdom back. The crimson Devi said, smiling, your enemies are enfeebled. Return to your city and rule for 10,000 years. After this life, you will be born as Surya Deva's son and be known as Sarvani Muni. She turned now to the businessman Samadhi, who stood before her with folded hands. She said, and what would you have of me, Samadhi? The long tapasya had made Samadhi a wise man. He said softly, Devi, bless me with the wisdom that the bonds of samsara which bind my heart are loosened. I want enlightenment, Mother of the world. I want to see the truth and to be free. The brilliant Devi raised her hand over him. Next moment she vanished before their eyes, and a common fire burned once more in the pit of sacrifice. Glowing with their experience, the two bhaktas came to the Muni and told him what had happened. Just then they heard a great noise at the edge of the ashram. The Muni smiled and said to Saratha the king, look, your ministers who betrayed you have come to beg your forgiveness. It was true. Not only his ministers, but most of his people as well had come to beg the king to return and to be their king once more. They had risen up themselves to kill many of the robbers and had driven the rest out of the kingdom. They fell at his feet and begged his forgiveness, and there was no doubt that the Devi Bhagavati had wrought this miracle. The king went home to his kingdom with his ministers and his people and began to rule more wisely than ever. The Devi Ambika's grace was upon the king, and his was a just and prosperous reign. But Saratha was not the only one whom the Devi blessed. As the king's ministers came to Samadhi's ashram, a strange thing happened to Samadhi the businessman. He sat some distance from the congregation in the hermitage. His wife and son did not come back to ask his pardon or call him back home. Instead, the Devi visited Samadhi again subtly in his spirit. She loosed a tide of knowledge and joy into him, and she set him free. When he knew the truth, all the businessman's old attachments fell away from him like a snake's old skin. 1,000-petaled lotus unfurled in his head, and he was one with the Divine Mother, with Parashakti, with eternal bliss. The illumined Samadhi spent the rest of his mortal days wandering from one sacred site to the next, and when death came to him, the Divine Mother appeared and took him into herself, and he had moksha, liberation, said Vedavyasa to Janamejaya. Jai Mahamaya ki jai, Vishveshwari Mata ki jai, Ma Durga Mata ki jai, Ma Lakshmi Mata ki jai, Ma Saraswati Mata ki jai, Bole Baba ki jai. Any questions or comments? Have you heard that story many times? It's always inspiring, yes. And who knows what we'll hear about tomorrow. We'll start at 8:30 on our live stream with the Devi Puja, and tomorrow was moved to the triad of Mother Lakshmi for 3 days. So, Jai Mahamaya ki Jai. We'll have darshan of our beautiful mother before we end the broadcast. And we'll pray that the Divine Mother's blessings and love fill the whole universe, and definitely each one of our hearts.